An interesting aspect of life is that everyone's so goal driven, everyone is so outcome driven, and everyone's so quick to just we've been not engineered, but our minds have shifted so much to impatience. A part of that I see is that everyone is just all about how can I do things quickly? How can I get things done quickly? Now, do I blame that on social media? I sure do. Why? Because social media shows the end product of what people want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, you see a guy with a six-pack abs and physique guy and beach, whatever, right? And you're like, how do I get that in the most quickest way? But I think people don't realize that it's the journey itself that's the most enjoyable part, is the process of that. And so part of that is, do I think there's unrealistic goals set by people, or there's unrealistic expectations by people, or there's unrealistic outcomes for people? Like there's a lot of reasons why people don't get to that point. So the biggest thing is like, why do they actually fall off their goals? Like that's a question that I think it's a very good question to ask. And it's a good question to ask a range of people, because I'm sure we've all had goals. We've all stuck to it for like a bit and then we've just fallen off. And I think sharing personal experiences helps people, like it helps us empathize, it helps people empathize with us, but it's also authentic. It shows that no matter if you're a podcaster or
self-made millionaire
or you're an entrepreneur, you are someone that's going to go through those stages of you have a goal and you fall off. You have motivation, you fall off. You have a bit of drive, you fall off. Now, there are people that are on the psychopathic end, not psychopathic, sorry, but the extreme end where they're just so focused on that they will do everything possible to get there, and good on them.
But then, yeah, like what they lose out on instead as well. They lose on so many things.
So I've won, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So there's a balance there, right? There's the extreme of you get your goals, but you're not hitting them. And then you've got, I've hit my goals, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, guys.
Such a broad topic, because everything that he's talked about has applied to me. Like there were so many times where it's just like, damn, I need abs. And what's the first video that's watched? Believe it or not, the videos that have the most views are the ones that say how to get abs in 30 days. Bro, that's not possible. You know what I mean? Like I used to watch those videos, start pumping out crunches and stuff. It's not doing anything. And then, you know, you get older and then you realize like, yeah, bro, you can't get abs in 30 days, you know, like, and as much as you try, and then you're like taught all these other things, and then it's diet. And it's just like, okay, I have to set this like diet, and then see diet, it's much longer than 30 days, right? Diet is much longer. Self-discipline is much longer. Going to the gym is much longer. So I think that brings in how long are people willing to wait for the results. See, so it's results driven. They just want to know how long till they get the results and not really the journey. And that's when you start kind of, you know, falling off because you don't enjoy the journey. You only want the result. And then because you want the result, that's it. There's no more drive. Your drive is just, you've just fallen off your goals now. So I feel like that's one way that people fall off goals, but there's such a myriad of different things.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the Mike Chang six-pack abs. I don't know if you remember that guy. He was selling pills or something like that. I can't remember. Like this shortcut method of how to get six-pack abs with like this wonderful like product you can buy from me. But none of that stuff works.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I think that's what it is. Like you both highlighted really well, which is like cheap, fast, efficient, easy. Like these three buzzwords not even buzzwords, but three words you always hear all the time, but that's never the case. So I've had that experience, and I think a lot of the time as well, I've also come across like friends that say, "Oh, I want to go to the gym." 2-3 weeks later, they're gone.
But you're looking at me. You're looking at me.
No, I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just saying.
Bro's the fittest one here, looking at both of us. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, both of you right now. No, I'm saying in general, like it's just. I think part of it is because they haven't. It's about self-image, right? It's like how you view yourself. If you truly don't believe you are someone who's capable of actually, you know, getting a good physique, or someone who can't do it, you've persuaded your mind, body, everything that you're just not going to do it. And it's going to give up when it comes to that stage. Like, yeah, you might have motivation for 2-3 weeks, but that's about it. Like, you need like discipline to keep you going through that. But you also need that, you need to construct that belief in self-image. Like, you need to have a more positive self-image of like who you want to, or maybe you're not content with the way you are, but the person you want to become. And creating belief is like through consistent action. I can talk to myself hours and say, yes, I can lift 1,000 kilos, I can squat, I can deadlift, do all this, I'm fit. But I don't believe that until I actually put in the action to do it. Like, I've probably convinced my mind that it's possible, but I need to also prove to my body and everything that I can do it by being consistent with it. So it's very important to build like self-image and have like develop a positive self-image, and then like following it through with discipline. Another thing as well I ask people is like, okay, once you reach that goal, what's next? Like, are you going to be consistent with this? Or is it like, once I do this, then I'll go back to my old habits and that's it, I'm done. So it's like, how do you make this a lifestyle? That is what's going to make it into not just like a short-term thing, but like a discipline. And that's when you're going to be thinking, I can't follow Mike Chang's six-pack abs or like Brandon Carter or someone else who does this for like 30 days or something. I have to create a more sustainable type of approach that I can do this based on my lifestyle and my values for my my entire lifespan. And I think that's when you'll become disciplined.
Yeah, you've used two words, that discipline and consistency. I think the way I define discipline is someone that's consistent with their values. So if you don't have strong values, you're not going to be disciplined. Like, if your values are driven based on honesty, being honest to yourself, integrity, self-reflecting, and you're not consistent with that, you're not going to be someone that's disciplined. You're not going to be someone that, regardless of what happens, you're still going to stick to those values. That's how I see discipline. I see consistency as putting in the work over a longer period of time in a manner that's repetitive. It feels crap, but you still do it.
Exactly. See, I think that's what discipline is, right? So discipline is really doing something you don't want to do. So Andrew Tate, for example, right? One thing that he stated was he would get gym done first thing in the morning. Or he would go kickboxing and fighting first thing in the morning. He was a world, I think kickboxing champion, right? But at the end of the day, you would expect him to be in love with that. He wasn't. He hated gym. He said, I hate gym, I hate it, but I would get it done first thing in the morning. Because when you get the hardest part out of, hardest part thing in the day that you want out, you'll have a really good start to the day because you've just put you through this level of discipline where you've gotten up, you've done the hardest thing, you've tackled the hardest thing during the day, and then you've gone ahead with the rest. But you brought up a good point as well. It's also in regards to your lifestyle. And I think it's about making a mental shift from being not goal-driven, but falling in love with the journey. Because that's the only way it's going to be sustainable. Because if you're once you reach that goal, you're right, what is next? But then if you fall in love with the journey, then like gym, once again, gym is like the most perfect example. If you fall in love with the gym, then you're just going to keep going to gym constantly because you actually love it. But if you are goal-driven, I guess it works to an extent, but humans, we can reach a peak. Our humans can reach a beautiful peak, but once you reach that peak, what happens next? Like, I think there's like this whole stat that in the first 10 years of like natural gymming, you can essentially reach, like you can grow your muscle at a very expedited rate, and anything after that is much, much slower. So then it's like you're not going to see the results as quickly as you did maybe, a few years ago. So now it's like, okay, I need to fall in love with the journey.
I also think let's steer away from gym because it's an easiest part, but there are other goals and motivations that people have that they fall off. So gym is probably the easiest thing to talk about because you're just not good enough to go to the thing and lift weights, right? And again, that just comes from a place of not being consistent and not being disciplined with yourself. And look, I'm guilty of it myself, and I'm sure a lot of people are. But let's look at it from a sense of you've put your mind to starting a business, for example, or you've put your mind to growing your business, or you've put your mind to starting your YouTube channel, starting a podcast, or you've put your mind to developing at work, or learning a skill, learning a new language, learning thing. Fundamentally, all those principles apply as to why you fall off the goals or what you've worked towards. And I think it goes back to, I think we spoke about this yesterday. It's the purpose. I think without a strong purpose, you can't have without a strong purpose, you can't have goals. With goals, you need consistency and discipline. Actions, you need to take consistent actions to get to that goal. And you need to be disciplined to take that consistent approach. So it all starts from one place. If you look at it, it's purpose is the starting point. Then you look at are you disciplined? Are you someone that's disciplined? Are you someone that's focused? Are you someone that's ready to put in the work, regardless of what's going to happen? And discipline is something that you work over time. Then it's the actions that you start putting in. Your actions start coming from your purpose. We spoke about that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, your actions come from your behavior, and your actions do come from your purpose. And I think that's the first place to start. With any goal you try and do, it's just what is your why? What is your purpose? Or what is your desire that you really want to attain? And then you shift it to your environment. I think that's where people make the mistake. They straight away jump into the mindset before the environment. It's we spoke about this yesterday as well, that if you just go from your purpose and you just straight away go the mindset and then the behaviors, it's just you're not in the right environment. Are you in an environment where you're not going to be distracted? Or are you in an environment with people that aren't supporting you? Because if they're not supporting you as well, then you're also going to be you're going to have a negative self-image, self-image. Because you're around people that are saying it's not possible, it's impossible, or you're a failure, or this, that. You're going to actually start believing that as well. And you're going to convince yourself again that you're not capable. So then your motivation drops, your discipline drops, your willpower also drops. And I'm going to make a distinction between all three because it's easier to mix it up. I think as Shiv highlighted what discipline means, it's consistent action and doing
consistent values, strong values. You're being consistent with your values.
Yeah, being consistent with your values, whether you like it or don't like it. It's values, so values don't have any feelings. And then motivation is you feel like doing something. You have any. It's because you feel good to do something. So it's based on emotions. And then you have willpower, which is resisting temptation. Because I think that's a very something that people don't really have a lot of, willpower. The urge to resist temptation. The amount of times of, when you learn a new language or learn any new skill, even business related stuff, it's easy to just fall into the trap of just watching videos that aren't even productive. Going into the TikTok algorithm or Instagram, just mindlessly scrolling. You start off with how to create this business or something video, and then you end up watching. Now you're watching some other type of video about how to cook food.
I'm so guilty of this because
everyone's guilty.
I feel like it's more of a perfectionist stance. You're so scared of failure of that goal that you end up just going ahead and trying to absorb as much information as possible. You watch endless hours of YouTube, you read endless, books, you read endless articles, you go to Facebook posts, you learn about other people's experiences, and all of a sudden it's so overwhelming now because you've heard of so many positives and negatives from other people's journeys, and then you start to just put off that journey, right? But I think, when you go ahead and there's a specific goal that you want to, really achieve, I think a really big thing is breaking it down in steps. If you go, once again, I'm also guilty of this. There's a goal. I make sure it's the top, highest, biggest goal I can get. I don't look at all the steps behind it, So a lot of the time someone will be I want a 6-figure business. right? And they'll jump to like the highest thing, getting the highest investment, you know, putting all their time and effort into it within like 1 month, or, you know, all their time and effort. But really, that's not how it's supposed to work, right? If you have a goal, you need to be able to break it down. What steps are necessary for me to be able to actually get to that point? It also needs to be in line with my lifestyle. So if I'm working full time and then I'm just like, for the next month, I'm just going to focus on this, then what happens when push comes to shove through everything else? You know, you've only got 24 hours in a day. So much of that's taken up by sleep and work. You have only a limited amount of hours as well. So I think there's so many other questions and so many other things that you need to focus on before just jumping onto one set goal.
Yeah, well said. It's breaking it down to more digestible parts. Let's talk about the idea. Like we've touched on, once you've hit your goals, what happens? But what about those that give up everything to get to that one part, that one goal in life? And it's that I've won, but at what cost?
I mean, respect to them, right? Because the level of sacrifice you need to make to be able to, and this, I think this comes to like any major goal, to be honest, the amount of sacrifices you'll need to make, which is really time and relationships, in my opinion. You'd have to give up so many relationships to friends, family, you know, I'm talking about your own mothers and fathers, your best friends, and then, you know, also your health. You have to give up so much of your health as well, and your own mental kind of, what's the word? Mental kind of stability as well. You give that all up.
Sanity. I guess,
your sanity essentially, to go and get that goal. So respect, but at the same time, as Shivi says, at what cost, and how many people are willing to make that, you know, transaction, sorry, because time's also there as well. How much time are you willing to lose as well?
Yeah. I think that extreme end of like chasing your goal, sacrificing everything, it's admirable for someone to do that, because you know there's a lot at stake to be able to do that, and they have such conviction to do that. But yeah, I think that's where I think we mentioned yesterday, it's important with whatever you do that it feels like play to you, like it feels like a game, that it's enjoyable, like it's not forced upon you. It feels natural, and like you're in a state of flow and you're enjoying it. Like as you said, like the journey, which is more important than like just getting to the destination. Because if you're like going very extreme and you're focused on the materialistic, like destination, the outcome driven stuff, once you get there, a lot of people I'm not sure if there's a statistic for this, probably do fall into depression. Like once because they're so focused on the outcome, it's like they don't have, as you said, like at what cost? They gave up their health, they gave up relationships. They realize at the end of that is like they're just isolated.
I guess that's when they say, you know, it's very lonely at the top, right? Because you'd have to give up so many things. And how many movies and stories are there of these, you know, examples of people giving up everything to reach to the top? And it's just like, was it worth it? That's the final question. Was it worth it for me? And that's where you kind of draw that kind of line. As I guess you go through that journey, it's just like, how much of that goal do I want? And then also how much of my sanity and friendships do I also want to keep as well? So it's like that fine line as well. I think one thing I want to talk about is for businesses, how people start off with like a great goal, but money comes in the way. And it's just like, once money's there, that goal kind of gets very blurry, because a lot of people's goals, you know, like I've seen it with so many businesses, they love what they do, you know. Their goal is to create something that they love. Their goal is to create something that, you know, they love doing. But once money comes in the way, it all kind of goes away, because then their main focus is grabbing that money. They're like, oh, you know what? Money's given me this sense of happiness. Money is the new goal. And I think that's very common. People's goals that they've set up, and it kind of shifting towards more like that transactional side.
When you say money, is it just the obsession of making money, or like what do you say?
I would say it's the obsession of making money, to be honest. Or not really. Actually, now that you bring it up, I think one thing that you kind of also see is especially in our society, money does provide you with power. And a lot of people really love that feeling of having money and therefore having power and therefore having power over people and being able to, you know, view themselves as these, I don't know, like the top dog at the end of the day, and like, I'm worth more, I'm more important because of this XYZ dollars in my bank account.
Is it that they prioritize money over growth of the business? Is that
Yeah,
what you mean?
I've seen that, right? There's businesses out there that you kind of go there and you're just like, wow, I would kill to have a setup like this, but it's just sitting there collecting dust. You could do so much more with it, but because they're just so content with making money, it's just like, oh, this is making enough money now. They just kind of stick with that only. And they'll just go ahead and that's all they'll focus on. So, yeah, I think that's a huge thing in today's society. It's just like, how much money do you want? And are you willing to sacrifice your goals that you've had, you know, that you believed in so much for money?
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. I think that's where also a lot of problems occur, where people place the identity on what they own. Like, oh, I own this I have this Lamborghini, now I'm worth something. Or like, I have Louis Vuitton, now like I'm of someone who's of value. Everyone will recognize me as someone of value. And that's where the problems happen, because when people place the identity of who they are and what they are defined by like materialistic things. And it's a bit ironic as well. Like, I don't think the CEO of Louis Vuitton even wears any or like has any Louis Vuitton stuff. He just wears a normal suit. So it's like he's got human billboards out there that are, you know, branding his company and stuff for
in my
for him.
opinion,
But,
I would
like I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
like, I think that it's very important you don't place your identity upon things you own, because that is where like you're also giving that power away. Like, you're giving power away to people. Basically, your self-worth is defined by how other people view you, and that is like, that can make you very vulnerable, because then if everything is based upon, there's no end to materialistic things as well. And I think it's just very important to like have like that initial conversation with yourself to like self-realize who you want to be, and that it's away from like these materialistic things. Because once you become that sort of individual, those things will be a byproduct of like who you are, like the qualities and traits that you've developed. And those things are things that people can't take away from you. Like, you can lose your car, your house, everything, but the type of person you've become and the identity you've developed, no one can take that away from you. And I think, yeah, that's very important, I think, to establish.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just with that example, I think I've spoken about this, but Alex Hormozy, he built a business with a business partner for 5 years. You know, he's made him a lot of money with his business partner at this point. I think the story goes, the business partner sold everything from the business, took everything, and just moved overseas with his girlfriend.
Far out.
So he's left with, he's like, everything that I worked for over the 5 year period was down to zero. The next year, like the year goes by, he makes more money than he ever did in 5 years because of his strong sense of the skills, etc., that he had. I think that's quite inspiring, that the importance that we should place on the skills, values, identity, consistency, discipline, goals, motivation, rather than materialistic things.